Blood Diamonds by Richard McAndrew.
Blood Diamonds by Richard McAndrew. Chapter 1. Our front page story. "We're on the front page," said Annie Shepherd. She smiled at Harley Kirkpatrick and gave him a coffee and that day's Daily Post. Kirkpatrick looked at the front page of the newspaper. His name and Shepherd's were there. It was their first front page story. He felt good. 4.5 million people bought the Daily Post every day. He drank a little coffee and read the story quickly. Blood Diamonds by H. Kirkpatrick and A. Shepherd. Diamonds are important for a number of countries in Africa. Diamonds buy food and doctors. They give people work and help them get money. But in some countries, people buy guns with the diamonds. We call these diamonds blood diamonds because many people die from the guns. In Angola in the 1990s, blood diamonds made $3.7 billion in 5 years. That money bought a lot of guns, and in Angola in the 1990s, a lot of people died because of these guns. The United Nations is trying to stop blood diamonds. "A good start to a Wednesday morning," said Shepherd. "A front page story." Kirkpatrick looked up. "Yes," he said. "Blood diamonds is an important story." "Yes," she replied. "And I've got a new story about them." Kirkpatrick and Shepherd worked well together. Kirkpatrick went out and asked people questions. Shepherd worked in the office. She used the computer and the internet. "Tell me about it," he said. Shepherd smiled at him again. She was 27 years old, with short, light brown hair and dark brown eyes. She wore blue jeans and a white shirt. "Come over to my computer and have a look," she said. Kirkpatrick went over and looked at a photograph of a man on Shepherd's computer. The man's hair and eyes were dark. He wore dark trousers, a jacket and a tie, and had a black bag in one hand. "This is Eric Vandelft," said Shepherd. "He's 36 years old, half Belgian, half African. He's in Britain now. He came into London yesterday evening from Lagos in Nigeria." "And who is he?" asked Kirkpatrick. "What does he do?" "Well, he's a businessman," replied Shepherd. "He buys and sells things in many countries. Some people think he also buys and sells guns. And blood diamonds." Kirkpatrick looked at Shepherd. "I had a look on the internet late yesterday," she said. "There was a lot about his business, but his name was also in a story from a South African newspaper about blood diamonds." "That's interesting," said Kirkpatrick. Shepherd gave some papers to Kirkpatrick. "This is all from the internet," she said. "The first one is the South African story. I'm going to look again today." "Okay," said Kirkpatrick. "And we need to know where Vandelft is now." "He's at the Charterhouse Hotel, on Charterhouse Street," said Shepherd. Kirkpatrick laughed. "Good work," he said. "This morning I spoke to one of the people who work there," said Shepherd. "She's going to watch Vandelft for me. For a little money, of course." "Very good work," said Kirkpatrick, laughing again. Then he looked at his watch. It was 10:15. He stood up. "Maybe Vandelft is still at the hotel," he said. "What are you going to do?" asked Shepherd. "You can't just ask, Do you buy and sell guns or blood diamonds? Kirkpatrick took the papers. I'm going to read these first, said Kirkpatrick. Then I'm going to watch and see where Vandelft goes. Well, don't do anything stupid. Shepherd did not look happy. Sometimes Kirkpatrick wanted a story too much. Kirkpatrick put a hand on her arm. Of course not, Annie, he said. Of course not. Out on the street, Kirkpatrick stopped and put on his jacket. The Daily Post was on Fleet Street in London. At one time, all the important British newspapers were on Fleet Street. But now, only the Daily Post had an office there. The other newspapers were all in the east of London. Fleet Street was not far from Charterhouse Street, and it was a warm October day. Kirkpatrick started walking. He needed some time to think about Vandelft, and he needed to read the papers from Shepherd. Chapter 2. Meeting Vandelft. There was a cafe across the street from the Charterhouse Hotel. Kirkpatrick went in, asked for a coffee, and sat at a table near the window. He was a tall man, about 30, with long brown hair and blue eyes. He wore jeans, a jacket, a blue shirt, and light brown shoes. He read the papers from Shepherd. The South African story was short, and Vandelft's name was in it. It asked the question, does this man buy and sell blood diamonds? Kirkpatrick also learned a lot about Vandelft's business. It brought coffee, fruit, and other things from Africa to Europe, and then took cars and computers back to Africa. He waited in the cafe and thought about how to start a conversation with Vandelft. He didn't have time to think of an answer. Vandelft came out of the hotel, a black bag in his hand. Kirkpatrick drank his coffee and stood up. Vandelft turned right and started walking. Kirkpatrick took his jacket and went after him. He needed to talk to Vandelft. But how? Vandelft walked down to Holborn Circus and then turned right into Hatton Garden. Kirkpatrick was 50 meters behind. Hatton Garden is famous for its jewelers' shops. There are all kinds of jewelry in the shop windows, watches, diamond rings, but Vandelft didn't stop to look at them. About 200 meters down the street, he opened a door and walked into a shop. Lafon Jewelry, Paris, London, Antwerp. Kirkpatrick looked at his watch. It was 10:30. He walked up to Lafon Jewelry and looked in through the window. The shop wasn't open now. Vandelft and a young woman were at the back of the shop. The young woman had long, dark hair. Vandelft's bag was in her hand. They went into a room and closed the door. Kirkpatrick walked down the street. He looked in the shop windows, but every 2 or 3 seconds he looked back at Lafon Jewelry. No one came out. He thought again about how to start a conversation with Vandelft. He walked across the road and looked in some more shop windows. 15 minutes passed. Kirkpatrick looked at his watch again. There was a flower shop with flowers out on the street. He talked to the woman in the flower shop. "Nice day. Not too many people this morning. Nice weather for October." Kirkpatrick looked at his watch again. Then the door of Lafon Jewelry opened and Vandelft came out. He still had his black bag. Kirkpatrick didn't know what to say, but he felt the time was good. "Eric!" he shouted across the street. "Eric Vandelft!" Vandelft turned and looked at Kirkpatrick. There was a question on his face. Kirkpatrick walked across the street to him, a big smile on his face. "I saw you come out of that jeweller's," Kirkpatrick said, "and I knew it was you, man." Vandelft didn't say anything. "You remember me, don't you?" said Kirkpatrick, still smiling. "Lagos, Nigeria. 5 years ago? No, 6 maybe. We had some drinks together, you and I. We had a lot of drinks together." Kirkpatrick laughed and put his hand out. Vandelft took it and gave Kirkpatrick a small smile. "Harley," said Kirkpatrick. "Harley Kirkpatrick. You know, man, this is a good day for me, and maybe it can be good for you too. Are you still in the business?" Kirkpatrick stood very near to Vandelft. "You know, buying and selling, this and that." He didn't wait for Vandelft's answer. He took a pen and paper out of his jacket, wrote a number, and gave it to Vandelft. "Here's my number, man. Call me. I know someone with good money, and he wants to buy." Vandelft looked at the paper and then at Kirkpatrick. "Thank you, Mr. Kirkpatrick," he said. "That's okay, man," said Kirkpatrick. "And it's Harley. Listen, I must go. It's good to see you again. Call me." Kirkpatrick turned and walked away. Vandelft stood there in front of Lafon jewellery and looked at the paper in his hand. Then he looked at Kirkpatrick and looked down at the paper again. Chapter 3. A Second Meeting. Back at the Daily Post, Shepherd was in front of her computer. Kirkpatrick came in, and she looked up. "Well?" she asked. "I met Vandelft," he said. "And?" "I'm waiting," replied Kirkpatrick, and he told Shepherd about his conversation with Vandelft. "Harley," said Shepherd, half shouting. "He actually thinks you are going to buy some guns from him?" It was a kind of question. "Well, yes, I think so." "Harley!" Shepherd was angry. "It's going to be okay," said Kirkpatrick. "It's not stupid, it's very clever." Shepherd made an angry noise. "Anyway," said Kirkpatrick, "we need to know more about Vandelft. And find out about Lafon jewellery too. That's Lafon. It's a jeweller's shop on Hatton Garden. Vandelft was in there for about half an hour this morning." Shepherd did not say a word. She just worked at her computer. Kirkpatrick walked across the room to his computer. He read some emails and answered them. After about an hour, Shepherd came over to his desk. "Here's more on Vandelft and his business," she said, and gave him some papers. "Thanks," said Kirkpatrick. "Vandelft's ships come into Southampton, Amsterdam, and other places in Europe," said Shepherd. "And, wait for it, they come from Angola, Liberia, Nigeria, and some other African countries." "Countries with diamonds," said Kirkpatrick. "Yes," said Shepherd, "and guns are important in these countries too." Kirkpatrick didn't say anything for a minute. Then he looked at Shepherd. "What about Lafon jewellery?" he asked. "I'm just starting to look for it on the internet," she said, and walked back across the room to her computer. After about 10 minutes, Kirkpatrick's phone rang. He answered it. "Kirkpatrick?" "Vandelft here. I want to talk to you. 10 o'clock this evening. Be on the street in front of St. Paul's Cathedral. The phone went dead. Yes, thought Kirkpatrick. Now we're going to get a good story. He looked across the room, but Shepherd wasn't there. At 10 to 10 that evening, Kirkpatrick was on the street near St. Paul's Cathedral. He looked up at it, over 300 years old and very beautiful. Then he heard a car stop and the back door open. Kirkpatrick, get in. Kirkpatrick looked into the car. Vandelft was in the back, and a man was in the front. Kirkpatrick got in the car and sat next to Vandelft. Drive, said Vandelft to the man in the front. Vandelft looked at Kirkpatrick. Where are we going? Asked Kirkpatrick. Vandelft smiled. Not far, he said. Then we can have a little talk. They drove from St. Paul's down to the river. There were always a lot of people here in the day, but at night it was very quiet. And at 10 o'clock it was dark. The car stopped. Okay, get out, said Vandelft. Kirkpatrick got out. Vandelft said something to the driver, and then he got out too. The driver sat in the car. Come with me, said Vandelft, going over to a little wall by the river. Kirkpatrick went after him. There were lights on the river. London Bridge was on the right, Tower Bridge on the left. Vandelft looked down at the water. Then he turned to Kirkpatrick. I love London, you know. And I love Africa too. I go there a lot. Then he took out a gun. Oh no, thought Kirkpatrick. Maybe this wasn't very clever. But it was too late now. You know, we never met in Lagos. Vandelft's eyes were cold. What are you talking about? Said Kirkpatrick. Of course we did, man. How do you think I know you? That's a good question, Mr. Kirkpatrick, said Vandelft. You had a lot to drink that night, man, said Kirkpatrick. And I did too. But I remember... Stop, said Vandelft. He put up one hand. Stop talking. You must think I'm stupid. I never drink too much. I never forget anything. And we did not meet. Now I'm telling you, don't come near me again. Just then Kirkpatrick heard a noise. He looked behind him, but it was too late. The driver wasn't in the car now. He was behind Kirkpatrick with a baseball bat in his hands. Kirkpatrick tried to run, but the bat hit him across the back. He went down on one knee, and the bat hit him again. Then everything went dark. Chapter 4. Sophie Lafon. Kirkpatrick opened his eyes slowly. Then he put his hands to his head. Ouch! His head hurt. Where was he? He looked at his watch. 2 o'clock. Thursday morning. Ouch! His arms hurt. And his legs. He tried to sit up. Ouch! He was still near the river, but behind a wall. Very slowly he got to his feet. He found some money in his jacket. He got up and walked slowly from behind the wall. The road was in front of him. He walked to the road and sat down. After about 20 minutes, a taxi came down the street. Kirkpatrick stopped it. The Daily Post, Fleet Street, he told the driver. "You don't look good," said the taxi driver. "I don't feel good," said Kirkpatrick. The office was not far away, and there was always someone there. Kirkpatrick sometimes worked all night on a big story, and he always had some clothes there. He needed a wash. He felt dirty, and he hurt all over. In the bathroom at the Daily Post, Kirkpatrick looked at his face and his body. His face wasn't too bad, but there were all kinds of interesting colours on his body: black, blue, and purple. He had a wash, changed, and got a coffee. "Harley, what are you doing here?" It was Annie Shepherd. "Why are you sleeping here?" Kirkpatrick opened his eyes. He was in the coffee room. He looked at his watch. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. He tried to stand up. His head still hurt. Ouch! So did his body. "Harley, are you okay? What's wrong?" "Vandelft," said Kirkpatrick. "He doesn't want to do business with me." And he told Shepherd about his evening with Vandelft. "I told you, Harley," said Shepherd. "I said, don't do anything stupid." Okay, said Kirkpatrick. "Anyway, we know he's here on business. He doesn't want me near him." "Yes," said Shepherd, "but we don't know where he is now." "What?" "The person at the Charterhouse Hotel phoned me," said Shepherd. "That's why I came in. Vandelft left the hotel late yesterday evening." "We need to find him," said Kirkpatrick. "Did you find anything about Lafon jewellery?" "Yes," said Shepherd. "A Monsieur Bernard Lafon opened the shop in 1903. Today it's his granddaughter's. Her name's Sophie Lafon. She lives here in London and works in the London shop. There are also shops in Paris and Antwerp. They're hers too." "And?" "That's it. The family are good jewellers. They buy and sell diamonds from all over the world." "Blood diamonds?" "I don't know, but I don't think so." Kirkpatrick sat and thought. Shepherd watched him. Then he looked up and spoke. "I'm going to talk to Sophie Lafon," he said. "She knows Vandelft. I think she knows where he is." "Okay," said Shepherd. "And I know," said Kirkpatrick. "Don't do anything stupid." Kirkpatrick walked into Lafon Jewellery. A door at the back of the shop opened, and a woman with long, dark hair came into the room. Kirkpatrick thought she was in her 30s. She wore a black pullover and a short, black skirt. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I'd like to speak to Sophie Lafon," he said. "I'm Sophie Lafon. And you are?" "Harley Kirkpatrick. I'm a journalist for the Daily Post." "And why does a journalist want to talk to me?" There was a smile in her eyes. "I'm working on a story about blood diamonds," said Kirkpatrick. Lafon stopped smiling. "I never buy blood diamonds," she said. "Never." Kirkpatrick spoke again. "A man came in here yesterday. His name is Eric Vandelft." "Yes," she said. She watched his face. There was a question in her eyes. "What can you tell me about him?" asked Kirkpatrick. Lafon put her hands on the table in front of her. "We buy diamonds from him sometimes," she said. "I know him a little." "Do you know where the diamonds are from?" asked Kirkpatrick. Of course, said Lafon. There are always papers with diamonds. The papers say where the diamonds are from. Did he sell you some diamonds yesterday? Asked Kirkpatrick quickly. Yes, he did. Where were they from? Africa. But why are you asking all these questions? Does Vandelft sell blood diamonds? Asked Kirkpatrick. Lafon's hand went up to her mouth. No, she said. He can't. You can't think he's selling blood diamonds? To me? I don't know, said Kirkpatrick, but I want to find out. Are Vandelft's diamonds still here? No, replied Lafon. They are in Antwerp now. Kirkpatrick said nothing for a minute and thought. Blood diamonds, said Lafon angrily. No, not Vandelft. Where is he now? Asked Kirkpatrick. I don't know, said Lafon, but... She stopped. Yes? Asked Kirkpatrick. He's going to have some more diamonds for me this week or next, said Lafon. She looked down at her hands and then up into Kirkpatrick's eyes. I want to help you, she said. I hate blood diamonds. Kirkpatrick took a pen out of his jacket. He wrote his phone number and gave it to Sophie Lafon. Here, he said. Call me when you know something. Anything. Maybe I'm wrong, but some people think Vandelft buys and sells blood diamonds.